Hey, what's up guys? This is Church of Caboose. And for today's Destiny 2 video, we're going to be talking about the opposite of nerfing. I put a video up before about complaining about folks wanting to nerf everything, and then I saw some articles and tweets from DMG and just conversations I was having with other people. I was like, oh my gosh, what if we were to talk about how to counter weapons that are quote unquote OP? And I also want to have a conversation about things that are maybe instant gratification, delayed gratification, why perhaps weapons on a list I'll be showing you guys are on there, and just trying to have a conversation about how to, I guess, counteract and get these different weapons, and just have a discussion about the way weapons are within Destiny 2. So before we get farther into it, if you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. And if you want to see more content like this or raid guides, all that wonderful goodness, then make sure you all subscribe to the channel. And if you want, hit that alarm so you stay up to date whenever I post new videos on the channel. All right, let's get on into this. The other night, I was, lying in bed, as we always do, scrolling through social media, and I saw an article that was called something along the lines of what weapons the community of Destiny 2 think is OP. It's something of that nature. I'll try to have a link for that article down below. And so I was like, ooh, this looks pretty interesting. So I started scrolling through it, saw some quotes from DMG as well as a screenshot of his Twitter. So I want to share with you guys a screenshot of a paragraph that I thought was particularly important and inspired this video, as well as his list of weapons. So the first thing we're going to do, what weapons are the community thinking is overpowered? Because that seems like a very good place to start. So let's find out, what does the community of Destiny 2 think is overpowered when it comes to the weapons? So here's the list, the screenshot off of good old DMG, one of the community managers' Twitter. So these weapons have all been messaged to him by people direct messaging him, and I'm guessing this is just kind of a list of the weapons that pop up more often than others. And then at the bottom he says no particular order. So apparently the following weapons have been driving people nuts, and I might give a little bit of commentary on each one. Bastion, that kind of makes sense. Behind a barricade, screwed. In the well, screwed. Using your super, screwed. Only thing you could possibly do is just go balls deep and just try to rush the person with Bastion. Then you got Revoker, not sure that's on there, requires headshots. Hardlight, I wonder if that wouldn't be on the list with the recent nerf, but I know it's still popular. Suros, I get that. It's pretty good. Summoner, that's one of the Trials auto rifles, or I guess the Trials auto rifle. Spare Rations, Dire Promise, those are both hand cannons. Mindbenders, which is the Mindbender's Ambition shotgun. You got Astral Horizon, which is the Trials shotgun. It's kind of Mindbenders, but it's the primary and the kinetic slot instead of the energy slot. Then you got Beloved, another sniper rifle. Eye of Soul, another sniper rifle. And Heir Apparent. Wait, why? Okay, I just have to ask you guys, please let me know down below. Why is Heir Apparent considered OP? You have to wind up your barrel for a few seconds before you can even shoot. You then have an arc shield, so if you're running an arc weapon or arc ability, it's really easy to kill the dude using Heir Apparent, and they're pretty much stationary, because the only way they can accurately fight people off in the Crucible, because that's what these weapons are mostly geared about, OP in the Crucible, is by constantly staying winded up, so you only get to walk and single jump. So I'm not sure why Heir Apparent is considered broken. And then I also want to know, how is Jotun not on the list? You guys are going to be upset by sniper rifles, but we're just going to leave off the list the toaster rocket, the special rocket where all you got to do is point, hold the trigger, and zoop, dead. That's a special weapon that's a rocket with moderate tracking abilities, and you're like, nah, sniper rifles that make you get headshots. That's where the pain is at. I don't know, Jotun, I'm surprised Jotun's not in there. That's a little heartbreaking. I've been trying to get Jotun nerfed for quite a while, because a lot of folks are like, damn, you get a straight up power weapon in your special slot. But enough about Jotun not being on there. That is the list of the weapons that folks have said are OP. And there's a paragraph in this article where DMG spoke a little bit about what these people and their concerns when messaging them, hey, such and such weapon is OP, please nerf. So right here, here's a little paragraph. I just highlighted and underlined some of the phrases in the paragraph I thought were more important than others, but I'll leave it up on the screen for a while so you guys can read it. But basically, Bungie or DMG is like, hey, we have more variety in weapons. in the past, we'd have people being like, oh, all these weapons are broken. They're all hand cannons, for example. Whereas in this particular slew of OP-ness, you've got a fusion rifle, sniper rifle, auto rifle, hand cannon, shotguns, and a machine gun. Like, who knew that Heir Apparent in its 2 weeks of existence would become a top OP weapon? Who knew? I don't know. Blows my mind. But anyways, then he goes on to be like, hey, I just want to let you guys know, like, this DMG, there's a certain amount of complaints stemming purely because players don't know how to counter the certain ways, like I'll just read it exactly. Purely from players not knowing how to count in certain ways to play. So like folks might be like, I can't play against snipers, so they're broken. I can't play against a shotgun, so it's broken. Like that's where it's all coming from. So I thought this would be a good time to talk a little bit about a trend I'm noticing with these weapons, which plays into instant gratification and delayed gratification. Off of this list, almost every single weapon is either a lengthy quest to acquire or it's RNG. So you have, for example, with Heir Apparent, you have to do 7 triumphs within Guardian games. For Revoker, you have to do a quest, which one step involves 300 headshot kills in quick play or 150 in competitive. Then you've got Mindbenders, which requires you to farm out the Hollowed Lair Nightfall. You got Bastion, which is not like the most like super long quest, but it's pretty lengthy. It's not a short one. Then you got Expert Rations, which is an RNG drop from an activity. And he prays! Then you've got a couple of Trials weapons, which requires you to be good enough in Trials, or your teammates to be good enough in Trials, to get enough wins to unlock that weapon at whatever reward tier it is for that week.
Zeke here calling the action for you on this sunny afternoon. There can only be one winner today, but many floppy wieners.
I believe the shotgun is 5 wins for the weekend that ended today on May 4th. So like that's just a real, like if you look at this list, they're almost all RNG and things that require time and effort when playing. Like unless you get crazy lucky like my wife does and you get a God Roll Dire Promise right off the bat. I've been playing for a long time and I still haven't gotten a God Roll Dire's Promise. So I'm thinking, based off this list, a lot of people are wanting some instant gratification, and since they can't get that instant gratification, they're like, nerf these weapons! Oh, and then that's probably also wanting to have these weapons nerfed, because folks just don't know how to play against these different kinds of weapons, and since they are top tier in their class, they're used more often, and so it would seem like they are OP guns. Believe me, I can do just as well with the Twilight Oath as I can with the Beloved or a Revoker or an Eye of Soul. So I think a lot of these issues are from people just not understanding you need to put in some time and effort to get these guns. Part of a looter shooter is that when you acquire gear, you get a sense of accomplishment by acquiring that piece of gear. So like if I was just handed Not Forgotten, for example, I would be not at all proud that I have Not Forgotten. And on the flip side, say we did nerf all these things because we're like, hey, a lot of people don't have them, or like enough people don't have them where it's worth nerfing them, then what was the point of putting in all the time to get things like Heir Apparent or Bastion or the RNG of Hard Light? Although I think Hard Light is probably going to change for too long as far as like if it's on any of these lists or not. Because all you have to do to get all these guns is you pick up quests or you just play the game and hope for RNG. And he prays! Like, it's really not that hard. And so the only reason I can imagine these guns are on these lists are because people want that instant gratification. But if we get to that point of instant gratification, we become Call of Duty. Why would nerfing these guns make Destiny 2 like Call of Duty, you might be asking yourself? Because then it makes every single gun just as good as all of the others. If you play Call of Duty, you know, in certain scenarios, like one archetypes, like an assault rifle, will be better in one range than like a submachine gun will be. That's just like one example. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of differences in the individual guns, at least from my playing experience. And when we were doing a looter shooter, like the whole point of this whole thing is to go after and acquire the best loot possible. And in order to have the best loot possible, that loot needs to be better and do better than everything else, right? So like that's the whole point of a looter shooter. Alright, so we definitely want to try to avoid making these weapons that take some time to acquire by making them like less potent. We don't want to do that for at least not all the weapons on the list, just because then that would take away the point in going after all of that loot. The only thing, as I'm looking at the list, I could be like, all right, maybe we do a little bit to the weapon would be something like maybe like Suros, and they already did something to Hardlight and Bastion. Just because they are exotics, they're kind of really set in their ways. Exotics tend to be held off differently. But I would personally disagree with that. I think everything on the list is absolutely fine, just the way they are. And we're going to go through and I'm going to explain exactly why. Bastion has a charge up time. So even if you're using Antius wards, you still have to be able to use enough skill to pre-charge that thing or know how to time your use of Bastion. And it is kind of nice to be able to have someone on your team that can shut down supers. So yes, it's annoying, but Bastion's one of the only things in the game that doesn't just come with Whirlpool rounds that makes you think twice before just using your super and going in. Like if I'm on trials and I see someone's got Bastion, I'm going to try to make sure that person with Bastion is out before I try using my super. And so it just brings a whole different level of gameplay and I guess game style into the game. Then we've got Revoker. It's a sniper rifle. Like you have to get headshots. And the only thing really that's good about it is you get your round back if you miss. And then of course you got the snappy shot sights. So I'm not sure. I just know Revoker takes a lot of time to acquire, so that definitely shouldn't get messed with because it is a ritual weapon that took a lot of time and effort for most people to acquire said weapon. Then you got Hardlight and Suros. They're both exotics. Hardlight recently got nerfed. There's not as much range. There's damage fall off now. And the ricochet rounds aren't as good anymore either. Suros still takes skill. The best version of it is the spinning up. So kind of like a fusion rifle, you have to be able to time everything where you get the maximum speed. And it's only like 35, 36 rounds in the magazine. So it's not like you can just like beam and hold down like a sweet business for 100 rounds and just absolutely wreck everyone. Summoner. Summoner is the same archetype as Hardlight. It's a 600 round, so it's going to be really good. But you have to have certain perks on it. And it's a trials weapon. So if you start reducing the point of trials weapons, then you already add more reasons to not play Trials, right? Like Trials is already pretty dumb to play, and most people don't enjoy playing it. It's a tiny number of people that actually play Trials these days. So like one of the few things Trials has going for it right now is that its weapons are good. So I don't think we should be messing with any of the Trials weapons at this point in time. Spare rations. It's a hand cannon. You have to get headshots for any hand cannon really to be very good. And spare rations is random rolled. You can get spare rations from doing things like Gambit or the Reckoning. And I personally like having rangefinder and snapshot sights. That's just what I like on my hand cannons. And then you got Dire Promise. It's a future war cult hand cannon. Similar to the spare rations. Again, it's RNG, but it just comes from anything. Just by playing activities, you have a chance of it dropping. Mindbenders is a shotgun. Oh, excuse me. Mindbenders has a lot of range. It's been one of the best shotguns for a long time. But you have to put in time into the Hollow Lair Nightfall. It's not the Ordeal Nightfall. You have to, when you pull up the Vanguard, go all the way over to the right and select the Mindbender shotgun. And you need to put together a fire team because there's no matchmaking for those Nightfalls. But that's not hard. Like when it's Mindbenders week, there's tons and tons of LFG posts for people trying to farm and get that God roll or get their first Mindbenders. Astral Horizon is another Trials weapon. It's a shotgun. It's like the same thing as Mindbenders, only it's in the kinetic slot. Then we have Beloved, which is a snappy energy sniper rifle. So again, you have to get headshots, but it's not even a hard one to get. Just do the Menagerie, put in the runes. You can even pick the Masterwork, which is an indication of the kinds of perks that are going to drop on the weapon, and you have a Beloved. So like Beloved's not OP if anyone can have it. Like I don't get what people would be complaining about Beloved. If anything, maybe folks are complaining about sniper rifles because of cheaters, but then it's not the weapon's fault, it's the cheaters' fault for using like aimbots and stuff. So that's a whole other discussion. Now then we got Eye of Soul. That's a trial sniper rifle, so same thing. And then Heir Apparent, which just still blows me that people are like, Heir Apparent's OP. It's only been around for 2 weeks. Folks, you can't sprint and use that gun. You have to basically keep that sucker like spinning up and walking around and only single hopping to use it effectively in PvP. And then if you have an arc weapon or arc ability, you just like you wipe out that person really quick, and if they're near a teammate, they get splash damage because that's how elemental stuff works. So I don't know why people are complaining about Heir Apparent, but anyone that is able to play Guardian games, I know Watercress is a thing, so anyone that's able to play Guardian games should be able to acquire that weapon. So like all these guns on this list are completely 110% acquirable. They're just not easy to get. Like spare rations. Let's see here. Mindbenders, Dire's Promise, Hardlight, Suros, and let's see here. Yep, and beloved, those are all things you can get really quickly if RNG blesses you.
And he prays!
The rest of the stuff is quests. So let's talk and wrap this video up about how do you counter these certain playstyle, these certain weapons, because these weapons encourage different playstyles, which if you're not going to adjust or haven't really thought about, maybe giving you guys some tips about how to, I guess, play against these different weapons might help y'all out. The video is almost over. Alright, so for Bastion, Bastion's very, very difficult to play against. There's really only two options that, in my experience, that you have for Bastion. You either need to be an Antaeus Ward, Rockin' Titan, and just really commit. Like, you see that Bastion guy coming at you, he's pretty close. You just sprint, slide, and do your best to shotgun the crap out of them, or hope that those Bastion rounds ricochet off, kill the enemy, and do not kill you. That's one option for Bastion. Any class can do a slide rush. It's just easier, obviously, with Antaeus Wards. Or you run away. Those are basically it. Like, you either run away or you just really commit and just go for it. Don't try to use a super unless it's like a slam and you're right on top of them. Because like Bastion can take out supers in one hit. And we've got Revoker. Like with any of the sniper rifles on this list, all you have to do is just know the lanes. If there's like a long open lane or you see someone with like that red flashlight looking down at you, move, duck, slide, jump. Just do something to throw off that headshot aim and just be cognizant that that is a sniping lane and just try not to look down there if that sniper is tearing your head off. You can also throw on a sniper rifle yourself and try to challenge the sniper rifle and be like, who's the better sniper? That's one way you can go against sniper rifles. For a hard light, it's not that hard to challenge anymore, just because it got that big nerf. But for auto rifles in general, like, you just gotta play. Just gotta be smart. Just be aware, like, watch your radar, see if anyone's coming and trying to chase you down, and just be aware of the perks that hard light and Suros have. So that way, if you hear someone pre-firing with Suros, like, oh boy, they got spinning up, I better be ready to either kill them or just get out of the way. And then hard light, just see the round, and be like, alright, they can ricochet, I better get out of the way. Summoner, same thing. Like, it's an auto rifle. Like, they have to have really good perks for that thing to be insanely gnarly. And Spare Rations and Dire Promise, they're just hand cannons, y'all. That's all they are. They're just hand cannons. Maybe on PC, hand cannons are more lethal than they are on console because of how recoil and mouse and keyboard works. But like, you just play against them. There's not a whole lot you have to do. Just be aware of who's where on your radar and just play your best. Like, don't be running out in corners, like sprinting. Try to always be ready to engage in a fight and you'll be just fine. For shotguns like Mindbenders and Astral Horizon, just back up. Shotguns only have a killing range for like one-shot kills of about 8 meters. So if you know someone's got a shotgun and they're rushing you, just try to back up and get away or whip out your own shotgun and blast them. Those are kind of the two things that I tend to do. And if you're like, but Church, you can't know if they have a shotgun until it's too late. Well, if you're in trials, you see their loadout, and if they get you once, then you know they have it, and so you can adjust from there. Beloved Solar Sniper Rifles, we talked about Heir Apparent. Really, the best counter for Heir Apparent is to have on something arc related. Like that's all you have to do. So either wait until you got an Arcanade, have an arc weapon on, or some kind of an arc melee ability, and it'll be just fine. You guys will be just fine. So hopefully that helps you guys all out. Alright, so I hope I met my main goals in my video, which was number 1, to talk about the weapons on the list and give you kind of my little personal take on these weapons, with talking about having instant gratification, casualization of Destiny 2, and just like the whole point of a looter shooter, you want to get the loot. And so for there to be loot you want to get, there has to be loot that's better than other loot. And then hopefully I gave you guys some stuff to think about when you're trying to consider how to counter these weapons, because I totally and 100% agree with DMG. I feel like a lot of things that people complain about are things that people complain about because there's not much of a counter. Either there's no counter to it, like Antaeus Wards is pretty difficult to counter. I'll give folks that, and Jotun is pretty difficult to counter. You just have to, your only option is to like dodge it, hopefully. So hopefully by giving you guys some ways of countering like the sniper rifles, the Bastion, and these auto rifles, maybe that'll make these weapons feel a little less fearsome and by telling you guys where you get these different weapons from. Maybe you'll be like, yay, and have an incentive to grind out some of those things in Destiny that you perhaps weren't willing to do before. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know down below, what weapons do you think are OP that are on this list? Maybe you disagree with me on some of my thoughts. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're better at PvP than I am. I am not amazing. I'm just relaying to you from my experience what works best for me. And maybe we can all share ideas and work together. You guys are all welcome to join on my Church and Friends Discord server, and we can have more conversations and just play together, especially if you're on Xbox or Stadia. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week, and happy grinding, y'all.